Hey you guys, welcome to another episode of Sunscreen Saturday, and today I'm very excited to bring to you the new Colorscience Flex. This has been out for a couple of months, but I didn't know. When I started seeing people do this, I thought I need to, and it was sold out everywhere. Amazon, Derm Store, Skin Store, Colorscience, it was sold out everywhere, and I guess I kind of forgot about it, but I checked Amazon and it was there and I got it. I love Amazon because the shipping is super quick. Ordered it Friday, got it on Sunday, and today is Monday. So before I go on about the product, let me tell you a little bit about me, because I think that's very important when you're deciding if my review is going to mean anything to you. I'm 58, I'll be 59 very quickly. And my skin isn't quite dry, so I don't have dry patches unless I'm retinizing, like over here or something. But it's not oily. It's on the normal range to dry. I put on a lot of essences for hydration, and I layer a couple of moisturizers of different weights before I put on any sunscreen. So I really like to hydrate and moisturize well. I have issues with zinc. I feel that it is so drying on my skin. In fact, I have issues with mineral sunscreens altogether. I don't really like them. But I'm reviewing them here because I know there are a lot of people who only want to use mineral sunscreens. I prefer chemicals, so I do both here. What I'm looking for in a sunscreen is something that is cosmetically elegant, something that doesn't feel drying, something that doesn't give me the pins and needles, something that works well with my foundation and my skincare. That is so important. And I prefer things that are inexpensive, because if you are using the right amount of sunscreen, you're going to go through it pretty quickly. And I think sunscreen should be available to everyone. A lot of drugstore sunscreens are pretty horrible. I have a playlist. I will put the link here or here, and you can see all the sunscreens that I've done in the past. There are a couple that are decent, but generally not so good. I have a preference to Korean sunscreens because they have the next generation sun filters. European sunscreens do as well, but they're more expensive. They're on par with things like this, which is $45, where right now I'm using two sunscreens that are in the $15 range, which I think is where they should be. I think that's the perfect spot for people who are serious about sunscreen and wear it every single day. We're going to talk about what's going on. And my glasses are in the other room. Okay, it's $45. It comes in 4 shades: fair, medium, tan, and deep. I'm going to have to do this from memory, you guys, because don't have the glasses. They say that this is skin adapting, tone adapting. They say that it has antioxidants in it, but all I could find was niacinamide, tocopherol and allantoin. That's nice, but it's nothing to, woohoo. There's a lot of things in here that are emulsifiers or for texture. That's fine. They say that you can go on with up to 3 layers of this, wait 1 minute in between to get more coverage, and totally forego your foundation. Now I know that that is a very interesting concept for a lot of people. If they can find a sunscreen that really looks nice and isn't orange and gives them enough coverage, that they would go without foundation. And I know I've tried it. I have a couple that are tinted, but they're too dark and or too orange on me. Let's see how this one goes. I got the color fair because they didn't have medium. It also says on their site that if you're not sure which color to go with, go lighter. So I thought, okay. Okay. I have a deep fear of orange on my face. In order to get the sunscreen protection that is written on a bottle, you need 2 millimeter of product per centimeter squared of space on your face. Space on your face. So that roughly is 1/4 teaspoon. I highly recommend you use 1/4 teaspoon until you get used to what it looks like. Shake it up and 1/4 teaspoon. Now 1/4 teaspoon is for face, it doesn't include neck. Usually I'll go over and make it a heaping for both, but because this is very liquidy, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take out about half onto my hand because they say that you need to break it with your fingertips, and once there is color, then you put it on your face. So we're kind of just mushing it around on the hand. Because how do you break with your fingertips such a big amount? It's starting to not be white anymore. If you're just using a little, I can see how you put some on your fingertips and go like that. But if you're using the correct amount, no. And I have to say, I think a lot of it's on my hand. So the way I just did it, probably not the best, but at the same time, I don't see another way if you're actually using a good amount of it, which you should be. We'll just keep on working this in, but spoiler alert, I did put this on my hand yesterday and I realized that it was too light for me. So my hand is lighter than my face. It kind of matched this area of me. And they say wait a minute and then go in with the second layer, and that's what we're going to do. Now, Colorscience is a brand that I have never tried because it's so expensive, and I like to mix it up here. I'll do some more expensive things, and I'll do some things that are Korean, and they're 15 bucks, and I'll do things in the middle. But to me, it was never a brand that I wanted to get into. I never wanted to pay $50 for my sunscreen. So it's been about a minute. I'm going to try to get the rest out of here. And again, I mean, how would one rub this with their fingers like that? Okay. That's kind of a messy application, right? There. It's a little bit warmer, you can see, compared to that. But yeah. And then there's some that got over to the other side. I don't know, you guys. I think you can just rub it on your face and you're going to get the same thing. And I have already done my moisturizer, my, essences, all my skincare. If you have a color that's not right for you, you probably are going to have a problem going for full coverage. But it's not that I'm really going for full coverage. I'm just going for that quarter teaspoon. That all-important quarter teaspoon. And I will just continue working it. It doesn't feel emollient necessarily. It's liquidy, but it's not as thin as some of those more milky things like the La Roche-Posay has the milkies. A lot of people have the milkies, and I don't really like them. I don't feel that they really adhere to the skin very well, and if you start to sweat, those in particular will go into my eyes very quickly. Get a little bit here. And the color's beginning to calm down, get a little bit warmer or deeper. And as always, I'm going to let this set up for a little bit, but not too long. I just don't think, you guys, it's realistic, the rest goes on my hands, by the way, to wait for 20 minutes before you put on your foundation. I don't think most people have that life. Most people want to go on right away. We'll come back and see if the color has changed any more, and then we'll go on with foundation. It is absolutely too light, and there are definitely areas that I've missed, so I'm just going to work those in. But it doesn't feel particularly moisturizing, if that makes sense. So I feel that if you have normal skin, you'll be fine with it, and you might be fine with it. It's on my face. If you have oily skin, just because it's not one of those really moisturizing dimethicone thick things. Look how when I move it, it changes color again. Oh, the Ilia foundation was like that. Oh, but now I'm moving it kind of off my face. So I think work it in really, really well and then leave it alone. But I definitely have to get this out of my hairline. Back in 5 minutes. All right, you guys, it's about 4 minutes later, and I don't remember if I told you what kind of filter is in here. I know I told you it's mineral. It's only zinc. It's 12% zinc. I always go in with the same foundation. This is the Makeup Forever Reboot, which I love. And I like to do the same foundation, so if there is a problem, we know, oh, well, it was a different foundation, so we don't know what the problem was. It just gives us a good base point to start off with. So these are the two that we are putting together. I'm usually a two-pump girl, and most of the time I apply with my fingers, so that's the test we're going to put it through. I do feel this is a little light for me. It might work for me in the winter. And I do think, you guys, because this is only zinc, which is not my favorite thing, I'm going to come back later on today and tell you what it feels like. But so far, I haven't had any issues. Sometimes I get a pins and needle kind of tingling thing with zinc. But I want to come back and let you know if I found it to be drying. There are other people out there like me who find zinc to be uncomfortable. Titanium dioxide I have no problem with. So as I'm putting on my foundation, everything is like lightening up. Just like when I was starting to blend in over here and it started to lighten up, it's like touching it again changes the color. And I don't feel like I don't feel that this sunscreen is really set, but that could just because, I don't know if you can see this, as I do this, the color changes. Do it here. Yeah, see the difference, the line from here to here? So I think we're going to have to give this a minute. They worked okay together other than that, meaning there was no balling and there was no pilling, but I don't know, I just felt like I was mixing these two together on my face, and this needs more time to set up, if it sets up at all, actually. Now I'm going to give this a good solid 10, I think, before I go on with any kind of other color products and see what happens, if it's going to be messy or if it's going to be lovely. And I think I'm going to do both cream and powder. Back in a flash. Alright, you guys, it's been about 10 minutes, and I feel like, as often is the case, I feel like I have some in my eyes. That happens a lot, and I actually already went in with a Q-tip, and yet I still feel I have some in my eyes. There we go. Let's do a couple of creams, and then we're going to do a couple of powders. I'm going to go in with this Nars bronzer, and I'm using it with a brush because it was so unusual how it got lighter as I touched it. I'm wondering if it'll do the same thing with a brush, and I'm also wondering if it will leave brush strokes. Hardly touch, and it seems to work if I do it that way. And I like to put bronzer where I naturally bronze, and I'm kind of going to stipple it here. So I don't see any brush strokes, but I do feel like I did a lot of stippling. Ooh, and it does feel like it's a lot. This is why it's important to have a couple of mirrors so you can see the forest from the trees. And now I'm going to go in with Beauty Blender and kind of knock it down because I got a little too much, I think. I haven't used the Makeup by Mario in a long time, even though I really like it. This is earthy pink, like yay. And pick it up with my finger and then take some off. And then take the clean finger and kind of blend. Okay, no problem with finger application. And I'm going to use the brush that is on this. You apply directly, which is a little scary. I can't remember if he stippled with this brush or if he pulled. I think he pulled, but I'm going to stipple. No problem at all. It's not removing my foundation. I am going to do a little bit of powdering, and this is the Chantecaille. And I love this. Love it. I'm just going to powder the cheeks, and then we're going to do the concealer. And the forehead's a little bit shiny. They say this finish is demi-matte or semi-matte, but I think just because of my moisturizers and everything, I'm not getting the feeling that I'm getting anything kind of matte, but I've been shinier. So let's go in with the Chanel Ombre. This is a new color from them, and it looks brown, but it has a pinky nature to it. I'm using it more on my cheekbones, and I'm going to leave that pink from the Makeup by Mario by itself on the cheeks. No problem at all. But remember, I did powder and I waited for a few minutes. And by the way, in case you're new here, usually when I put on my foundation, I go straight to the eyes. So I let my foundation set up for a few minutes anyway. My eyes could take a long time. So to me, it's not abnormal to put on my foundation and let it set. And I think that's going to wrap up the makeup portion of this video. Powder went on fine. The creams went on fine. I didn't see brush strokes, and those are all good things. So now it's about what's it feel like. It doesn't feel like pins and needles. It does feel a little greasy to me. And oftentimes when something has a lot of dimethicone in it, that's what I feel like. It feels greasy right around here. I'm going to powder that just to alleviate that feeling. I'm not saying it is greasy, I'm just saying it feels greasy. I prefer sunscreens that kind of sink into your skin rather than lay on top. And I think this one's more like laid on top. And let's see if just powdering where I'm getting this greasy feeling helps me out. Just because something feels greasy doesn't mean it is. It can also be drying and feel greasy at the same time, especially with sunscreens and me. So I think that's going to be the makeup portion of this test. The creams went on fine. There were no brush marks. I found that the creams didn't lift off the foundation and the sunscreen. The powders went on very nicely as well. It's just that it feels a little greasy. It feels a little heavy, which is interesting because it doesn't look like it would feel heavy. It's not a cream, it's more of a liquid. I definitely am wanting to come back in about 4 or 5 hours and let you know if anything comes up, if everything kind of separates and falls off my face, or if I start to get those pins and needles. But so far, I don't have that pins and needles kind of itchy feeling, and generally speaking, I find if I don't get that feeling right away, I'm generally not going to get it, which doesn't mean that it won't feel like it's drying my skin. So we'll be back in several hours and we'll see what happens. Hey you guys, it's about 3 weeks later. I think I shot this 2 or 3 weeks ago and I lost the footage of my comeback. No excuses, no stories, because I don't remember how it happened. I didn't even know it happened until I was editing it yesterday. I'm like, oh, that's okay. Since then, I have used it several times. And my experience is I don't like the way it feels on my skin. As I said before, I think I didn't edit this out. I prefer sunscreens that feel like they sink into the skin, and this feels like it lays on the skin. Even though the texture is quite thin, it feels heavy, especially right around here. It feels greasy to me, and I never was able to get away from that feeling of I want to wash my face. You remember when you were a teenager and you first started, your face changed and you started to be oily, and I don't know about you, but I was washing my face constantly because I didn't like that feeling. This is the same kind of thing, although not exactly like oily skin. It just felt like there's something on my face and I want to get it off. I don't like the way that it feels. I tried mixing it with other formulas that do sink into the skin, and I just didn't find any success on my face. However, I did find a use for it. So my chest is raging red all the time, no matter what. And I do like to wear V-necks once in a while, and I feel very self-conscious because I feel that it just, that's where the eye goes. People notice that. And I have been using the Australian Gold, which has a tint, but it's very drying, which is why I don't wear it on my face at all. The Australian Gold, however, if you give it 20 minutes to set up, it will not move. So what's the point? You put on a V-neck, you put on your sunscreen, and then you put on your seatbelt and it rubs all your sunscreen away. The Australian Gold doesn't. But it doesn't look good. The color isn't good, and you can see the dryness on the décolleté. This isn't drying. and it really covers up this redness, so I don't feel self-conscious at all. It isn't transfer proof, so you have to be careful how you put it on, because the edges of your blouse or your shirt will get that transfer, and it is kind of hard to get out. But I have found, I did wear the sunscreen all over my chest, and then I put on one of those shirts that is like a crew neck, and I thought, oh, this is going to ruin the shirt, and it didn't. So I think there's a way to work it to make it a little less transferable, and that's great. And it covers the redness very nicely, and that's fantastic. And it does its job as a sunscreen. Great. I just don't want it on my face. Unfortunately, I'm one of the few people who is not raving about this one. And tastes are individual. It is all subjective, not objective. For me, I don't like it on my face. Doesn't mean that it won't work for you. And you guys, that is it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope you come back again. Until we meet again, be safe, be smart, and I'm wishing you good health.